I'm going to tell you a little bit about the research. While I do, I want you guys to pull out your pointers because I feel like everybody, all the developers always get to have all the fun and the researchers never get to have any fun. So I'm going to try to make this a little more fun. So while you find your pointers, I just want to tell you about our line of research called iLearn. So we look at all different mediums. Apps is a small part of what the CUNY Center looks at, an important part, but just one part. And in 2009, we sort of started to notice anecdotally kids on the subway, kids in grocery stores playing with their parents' devices. And this was actually a really interesting thing because historically, parents' tools have always been amongst kids' favorite toys. You've got the toy lawnmower, you've got the toy phone, but they've never really been playing with the real thing. So this was, we wanted to, look into this as a research and advocacy organization. But this is what people were really sort of saying. Is anyone really going to let a kid play with such an expensive device? At the time, the iPhone, the iPad wasn't even in existence. And so to do that, we published our first iLearn report in the fall of 2009. And since then, we've followed up that line of research. So before I start to share some statistics, which I've been working on right up until this morning, is it's really important to understand what the sample is that we look at. Because oftentimes I'll share percentages or statistics from this work, and then someone will inevitably leave and say, wow, 75% of apps target kids. Well, we didn't look at every app by any means. So what we did is we looked at the top 200 selling paid apps in iTunes for different categories. So in 2009, we looked at the top 200 selling paid apps in the education section of iTunes. And then again in late fall 2011, which we just published in January 2012, we looked at the top 200 selling paid apps in the education section of iTunes. And then we're just finishing crunching the data on looking at the top 200 selling paid apps in the games section of iTunes. So again, top 200 selling paid apps, 100 iPad, 100 iPhone. That's what all of this data is based on. Does that make sense? Okay. Everyone have their pointers? I was really inspired by Barbara's wonderful talk on the first night of AppCamp about math. And so I'm going to make you guys all do a little bit of math today. So what's fun for us as a researcher is, you come in with these hypotheses or these, theories about what things are going to be, and then you try to learn something and figure out if you were right or if things are a little bit different. So how much do you guys think the average child's app in the education category of iTunes costs, using your pointers? Okay, so I'd say we're what, right around averaging right around $2? $2.14. So you guys are pretty good. What about in 2009? Do you think prices have gone up or do you think they've gone down? What do you think the average price of a child's app in the education category in 2009 was? Wow, I don't even know how to, Warren?
That would be 3.72.
Okay, so it looks like some of you think it's gone down, some of you think it's gone up. It was $1.13. So between 2009 and late 2011, the average price of a child's app in the education category raised by over $1. Something that I don't have up here, also in 2009, 90% of kids' apps were 99 cents. In this more recent data, 38% were. So it's not a 99-cent game anymore. People are looking at different pricing models and hopefully trying to come up with more fair price-value propositions. Okay, next guess. How much do you think an adult's app in the education category costs? So we've got a lot of people, I think it looks like pricing it a little bit higher. You're right. The average adult app costs $3.56 in the education category. So that's fairly high when you think about how many people, how much is priced at 99 cents. Okay. Now talking about the games category. Where do you think an app in the kids' games category would fall? Yeah, see, you guys are right. They're definitely pricing less than in the education category. Although, again, not all at 99 cents. So the average app in the games category cost $1.56. So you want to compare that to that $2.14 price and say, if you're thinking about where to place your app in games versus education and you're thinking about your pricing strategy, this is definitely something to keep in mind. Okay, so you can put your pointers away for a second and then we're going to revisit these little exercises. This is just a slide that shows the percentage of apps that target different age groups, and I think we've touched on this a number of times throughout the conference, but this blue bar that you've got up here looks at 2009, and so that you can see that the largest percentage of apps in our sample targeted adults, so almost 60% of apps targeted adults. And then if you look at kids, 35% targeted toddler preschool, and then you sort of had that inverse relationship through as the kids get older. So not surprisingly, if we look now through 2011, you see some pretty major growth. So it's kind of interesting because when we did this in 2009, when it was still at that, is anyone really going to let a kid play with a, adult-oriented device like an iPhone? We thought, oh my gosh, 35% target toddler preschools. That's way more than we expected. That broke our expectations or our hypothesis. That number has gone up to 58%. So almost 60% of the top-selling apps in the education section of iTunes targeted toddler and preschool. No, good. I'm glad you pointed that out. So the reason the numbers don't add up is because I didn't learn how to do math. No, I'm just kidding. The reason the numbers don't add up is because an app could be tagged for more than one age category. So an app could definitely target an elementary and a middle school age kid, or even, a high school and an adult kid. I have some more data on that in the report. There weren't very many that targeted like an adult and a child, for instance. There were a lot that targeted toddler, preschool, and elementary, or elementary and middle school, or even middle school and high school. But that's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. So the percentage of apps has raised in every single child's age category, accompanied by a decrease in percentage of apps for adults. So it's pretty obvious to us in this room that, okay, of course kids are playing with apps, and of course this is an important market. But believe it or not, from a policy perspective, and even sometimes from an investment perspective, this is still important data to kind of debunk some misconceptions that are out there. The other thing that I would encourage you to pay attention to on this slide is the elementary and in particular the middle school bars there. I was talking, I think, to Mandeep about this at breakfast. The middle school age category is still only 18%, but it's gone up from 4%. So I think when we talk about that lack of quality educational content in that age category, which we don't know from this research why that is, but I think it's both a supply and a demand issue. I think there's a lot of opportunity there for people who are looking to create quality educational apps in that middle school area. So something to think about, elementary as well. Okay, new topic, pull out your pointers. So this is a bar chart, and we're going to practice percentages. So what percentage of apps do you guys think mentions, of the apps in the education section, do you guys think mentions school usage?
Trending downward, I would say a strong 20 in its lower region.
14%, so you guys are right on. So when I first analyzed this data, and I'm sitting there and I'm saying, what, only 14% of the apps mention school usage? And then I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, 14% of the apps mention school usage. So, it's sort of lies in the conversation we were having on the panel. Is the school market right now just need to be an important ancillary to your business, or can it be your whole business? I think that's something that's really going to change over the next little while, and I wonder if we're here next year, what this number is going to look like. Percentage of games apps that mention learning claims. So in the games category.
We're definitely trending in the higher and mid regions. There's still a significant lower region.
There you go. So 32%. Okay. So you've got more games apps mentioning learning claims than you have education apps mentioning school usage, which is sort of an interesting dynamic. Of these 32% of games apps that mention learning claims, what percent do you think target toddler or preschool children?
That'd be a strong trending toward the upper regions.
100%. I have never in my history of my life as a researcher analyzed a piece of data and had 100% of anything. So that was kind of a fun moment, but I think it's kind of an eye-opener as well. Okay, so now we've got a number line. Barbara, are we working through some math pretty well? Is she in the room? Okay, so now I just want pure numbers, no percentages, no dollars. How many of the 200 apps, how many different publishers do you think were represented in the education category? But how many different ones?
We see a smattering, but definitely
109. So this is a very fragmented market, and if you compare a number like that to any other kids medium, television for sure, video games, toys, you are not seeing 109 different, maybe books is the only comparable. You're not seeing 109 different creators or publishers having top selling products in that marketplace. So when we talk about this problem of the discovery problem, there's the issue of fragmentation is a big one. It also shows that there's so much opportunity. And on that note, how many publishers of those 109 do you think had 5 or more apps in the sample?
That would be trending
Definitely
definitely lower.
lower, 7. Of those 109 publishers, how many do you think are new since 2009? So when we did this analysis in 2009,
That would be trending higher.
yeah, you guys are good. 89 new publishers in the space since 2009 in the top selling space. So that again is pretty staggering and totally drastically different from any other kids medium. Okay, so that was all the education category. How many publishers do you guys think there are in the games category?
I don't think anyone really knows.
81. So the games category does seem to be slightly less fragmented, and I'll talk about this on the next slide. That being said, it's still, there's just a huge number of people making the stuff that's getting out there, and these are the top 200 selling paid apps, 100 iPad, 100 iPhone. So there's also a lot of people making stuff that's selling, and so it's pretty exciting. This is a really ugly slide, and I apologize for that, but I wanted to touch on it because I thought you guys might ask. So when you look at the publishers with 5 or more apps in the sample, we've got the education category here and the games category here. And so you can see that it's a lot of people in this room. I think what's interesting is that if you look at the games category, you do see some of the bigger companies, and we talked about this on the panel. You've got MTV Networks, who obviously owns brands like Dora the Explorer. They've got Nickelodeon. Walt Disney, you've probably heard of them. PBS Kids. In the same list as Bonnier Digital Services. When I first saw that, I was like, who the heck is that? But that's Toca Boca. Duck Duck Moose. And so, it's really anybody's game right now. And so the brands are playing a very important role, particularly in the games category. Although when we gathered the data for the education category just a couple of months ago, I mentioned this on the panel, there were no brands in the education category. That's starting to change already. So something to think about, but lots of opportunity for both, popular branded content and also independent developers without those big brands and other mediums. So on that note, I'm out of time, which is perfect. I'm going to end it. And I don't know if we have a minute or two for questions, but I did just want to say we're undergoing this big strategic planning process at the Cooney Center. So please share your thoughts with me on how we can be a resource to you guys and what kind of research or other types of programs you'd like to see. So thank you.
Carly, I can't believe you just made research fun.
I try. It's fun for me anyway. Geeky fun, right?
That was great. She flipped all the things upside down. Instead of just showing you a graph, she let you create the graph. That was great.
Thanks.
Great technique. Good job. And